Welcome back, Buccaneers fans, to another episode of Hear the Cannons, presented by BucsGameday.com. My name is Caleb Skinner, writer and reporter here at BucsGameday. You can follow me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at CHSNull. Along with me, as always, is River Wells, our lead editor over here at BucsGameday.com, at River H. Wells on Twitter and X as well. Thank you guys for joining us. A great game that we just witnessed. The uniforms added to the aura that was the back and forth affair.
It was beautiful.
Between the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Seattle Seahawks. Tampa Bay coming away with a 38-35 victory in a game where it was ultimately who had the ball last. You could see that one coming from a mile away. More and more that fourth quarter ticked away. So good for the Bucs. 4 now game-winning drives for 4 of their wins this year, all 4 with 1 loss. Really great stuff. If you guys are watching anywhere, if you're watching on Twitter or on Facebook, please head over to YouTube, shoot us a like, shoot us a follow, subscribe, hit that subscription button, click on those notifications so you are notified anytime that we are going live. We truly do appreciate it. Go ahead, hop in those comments, talk with each other, talk with us. We'll bring up any questions that are prevalent to what we are talking about. As we do every week, we truly enjoy engaging with you guys. So feel free to hop in there as you wish. But River, man, awesome game. Wish it didn't come down to another game-winning drive, but I honestly didn't have any stress. I wasn't pacing like I usually do. We knew what it was coming in. We knew it was going to be probably an offensive battle, especially with the Ohio State wide receiver matchup between Jackson Smith and Jigba and emeka egbuka, excuse me.
There you go. You're like Rob Gronkowski. You just got to get it right, man.
What are some of your takeaways there?
Yeah, I thought it wasn't going to be a shootout because both defenses came in as a top 10 unit, but obviously the Buccaneers were banged up and so were the Seahawks, and then that's what happens. But it was interesting. I thought the Buccaneers started off really slow, couldn't get into the end zone when they were in the red zone situations, and then they found a way to make it happen towards the end there. I mean, Baker was unconscious. I think there's a good argument that was probably the best game of his NFL career, if not top 3. It almost had to be. He was nigh perfect, always finding the right windows, completely nails. So, he helped propel that team in a shootout. Finding guys like emeka egbuka for 1 trillion yards, just that connection is already so smooth. Egbuka, smooth route runner, just carving through the defense. And then, yeah, it sucks that the defense didn't play well against Sam Darnold. I mean, Darnold had a great game, but you got to be better than that, obviously. They scored like 5 straight touchdowns. So, and Darnold, arguably, if that was the best game of Baker Mayfield's career, Darnold had the better game up until that one helmet interception, which is rather unfortunate, but that can be the difference, right? In close games like that. So unfortunately, he'll only be remembered for that game, but Darnold was unreal as well. Great quarterback duel. Bucs were lucky to get out ahead of it for sure. And they just got to find a way to win games definitively instead of relying on heroics, because you're not always going to be able to win football games that way.
No, you're not. And that was something I was going to bring up, River. Is this, sustainable? Are these game-winning drives sustainable? We talk about it over and over again. At some point, the Buccaneers are going to come, back down to earth a little bit, regress a little bit more towards that mean. Is this sustainable for them as the season continues to progress? Because to me, it doesn't look like it's going to stop, and it's something that could bode well for us, especially late in the season when we've got all those NFC South matchups.
Could you repeat the first part of that question? You cut out for me there.
Oh, my bad. Do you think this is sustainable? Is it sustainable with these game-winning drives?
Oh, no. Really, if you want to beat great teams, you have to find ways to win pretty definitively, right? And the Buccaneers aren't doing that right now. And again, they have injuries, and that's understandable. And they're dealing with those, and hopefully they'll be able to get some key guys back in that respect. But they've just got to find ways to start fast, like they've mentioned, and continue to play 4 quarters of complete football. We kind of saw the opposite of the Eagles game against the Seahawks, right? Defense started out pretty strong and then just collapsed at the back end of that. And that's partially because that pass rush there never made Sam Darnold uncomfortable until like the last play of the Seahawks drive, that 5-minute blitz. But even then, even getting free rushers out, he never felt rattled.
Right.
Reddick and Diaby weren't getting there. And when that happens and you've got an injured secondary with guys like Jacob Parrish on the outside, and you have like that sort of banged up, weird order of defensive backs, that puts all the pressure on them when there's no pass rush. And we saw what happens when that
Mm.
happens. So,
But you could also look at that positively too. Like you're still able to come away with a win despite everybody
oh,
that
yeah.
were
Yeah.
down and out of the game.
And I agree, but you also got to hope once you do get guys back that's how it happens because the Bucs were healthy in week 1 and week 2, and that's what it took. So we'll see what
Very
happens.
true. Very early in the season. A great matchup. It was an amazing game to watch. Everybody's raved about it. Watching the jerseys, watching Jackson Smith and Jigba and Emeka Egbuka go off against each other is fantastic. Baker once again putting on one hell of a performance there on his end. Defense showing up when needed to be. That missed tackle by Lavonte David hurt a little bit, but other than that, very well done game. You came out of it. Hard place to play. Now you're 4-1. Get to head back home, face off against the San Francisco 49ers, who we were talking about in a little
one.
bit.
Yeah.
But the two high performers of this last game, Baker Mayfield and Emeka Egbuka. Baker Mayfield, of course, winning Air Player of the week this past week for his performance. He's top 10, top 5 in multiple NFL categories right now in the quarterback category, earning tons of MVP hype. Could possibly be at the top of the list of numerous different lists right now for that MVP award. Is this something that you foresee, coming true for Baker as the season progresses? Because he is missing a wealth of his, weapons there on offense. So imagine what he's going to do when these guys get back. It can only go up from here. So I would imagine that if he continues on this path and the Buccaneers can make a nice playoff run, or even at least make the playoffs, he's in the running.
This is a very good question. And I think a lot of things go into what makes an MVP, right? So the Bucs would have to have one of the best records in the National Football League. Baker Mayfield would have to be one of the statistical leaders and limit his turnovers. And
Which
I think
he has done this year.
He has done that. Now I'm gonna be that guy. He has gotten away with murder quite a few times. The Bucs have recovered most of his fumbles and a lot of his turnover-worthy plays where he had tried to fit these balls into some windows that were really closing were drop picks. So now that's all important, right? And that's how you limit. That's one way to limit turnovers for real. And if that continues, I think the MVP campaign is very live. If it swings the other way on him, which statistics are unfortunately want to do, that would be tough. Guys like Josh Allen are obviously playing excellent football right now. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the other quarterbacks that are playing great, like Dak Prescott's playing fantastic right now. The Cowboys will not have a very good record at the end of the season. So with the record that the Bucs have, how they're playing, the game-winning drives are awesome. He needs to, I think, sustain some really good success, and that the Bucs could get him some high volume stats and not have to bring it down to 2 minutes. Yeah, I think Mayfield's playing the best ball he's played all in his career, and we've said that the last 3 years. I keep doubting him. I'm like, how sustainable is the fact that he's a very turnover-worthy quarterback? Is he always going to throw 41 touchdowns to go along with the 16 interceptions, right? Because that's a lot of picks he threw last year, a lot of fumbles. Is it always going to be worth it? And then it just, it will be, I guess. So he's playing great football. He's limiting his turnovers. He's leading these game-winning drives in clutch situations. He's making great use of his legs as a scrambler to extend plays and drives where normally they would be dead in the water. He's playing his best ball right now, and she's showing everybody why he should be in serious consideration for these sort of things.
Yeah, and everybody wants to say, "Hey, it's early. Hey, it's early." We're heading into week 6, so we're getting into the meat of this NFL season real quick. So this is the time you're starting to look for these guys to kind of separate themselves. Who's going to be the contenders? Who are going to be the upper echelon players at the positions for these awards that are helping their team win? And there's not a guy out there really that I can say that has impacted their team more so than Baker Mayfield had for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, especially with what he's been dealt with injuries along the offensive line at the wide receiver position as well. But with that being said, the other end of this spectrum, another guy who's going to probably be up for an award here at the end of the season, Emeka Egbuka, the rookie wide receiver out of Ohio State. putting on a show, man. I think he leads all rookie wide receivers in yards per catch, yards after catch, receptions.
He's close to non-rookie wide receivers in those
Yeah,
areas.
it's pretty insane. I think he's the fourth, in receiving yards in the league as well. And that's all wide receivers. He's just putting on a show out there. It's coming on explosive plays, a lot of it. But is that sustainable for him? What is that going to look like when Mike is back, when Jalen's back for him as well? But right now, I not only agree, I said this yesterday on JC Allen, one of our fellow writers over at BucsGameday, on his podcast, that I don't think Emeka's only looking at as offensive rookie of the year right now, but maybe potentially rookie of the year as a whole.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's making a case for. I mean, I think there are other guys like Puka Nacua and Jonathan Taylor who are more apt to win Offensive Player of the Year, but like, why would he not be in that conversation at the moment? He's already racking up touchdowns. He's racking up yards. Honestly, if you are one of those guys who are betting guys and you put money on this O'Roy thing early in the season, you are going to do well for yourself. We've said so much about Emeka Egbuka, but how polished he is as a rookie, and where he makes his bank is how good of a route runner he is. Not the most physical guy, not the biggest speed guy, not even the biggest separator, but just the way that he's able to find space inside the defense and get over top of them, get through the middle of the seam, and just be open. I was talking to a friend of mine, and he's like, he reminds me weirdly of the way that Jason Witten can kind of do that, back in the Dallas Cowboys days. And really, yeah, the way that he can just find space in a defense where it doesn't look like there should be any has made him one of the elite wide receivers in the NFL. He stepped onto this Buccaneers team with Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, who's hurt, Jalen McMillan, who's hurt, obviously, and just became their best wide receiver. and when you look at how stacked this Buccaneers, wide receiver room is, that's a crazy thing to say. It's true.
Right.
It's true. So yeah, just nuts.
I mean, it just makes Jason White and company look even more genius for taking him 19th overall in the NFL draft. Like that is insane that you're able to get a guy of this caliber at 19th, when 18 teams ahead of you passed on him, and you were able to get him when everybody was clamoring for, go defense first. Now we're going to take a wide receiver, not knowing what we know now, and Mike obviously missing games, Chris not knowing when he was going to come back to begin the season, Jalen going out for 9 weeks, at least 9 weeks before the season even started. And now you're having to rely heavily on him, right? And, the Buccaneers wouldn't be nearly close to where they are right now without him, and, making clutch catches, down in those game-winning drives, or, taking the top off early in the game, whatever it is, whatever he needs to do, he's doing it. And one heck of a blocker there on the outside as well, gets down and dirty in the run blocking game. So, guy got it all. It's pretty scary that the Buccaneers have a guy like this again. But I'm going to continue to love to watch it, and barring any injuries or anything crazy happening, I don't see him losing that award, and potentially be up for a couple more as the season unwinds for him. But speaking of injuries, we've talked about it, week in, week out. River, it has been nothing but injuries for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Bucky dealing with a couple injuries. Mike Evans, no real update on his side of things. There was kind of a slip up. I'm not sure if on Adam Schefter's part or whose part, talking about the Buccaneers having 2 offensive linemen that are lost for the season. That brought up speculation regarding Luka Decky and how serious his injury was. But you got some clarification on that, if I'm not mistaken, today.
Kind of.
As much clarification as we can possibly get from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Clarification we got actually from Fox Sports' Greg Auman is that the Bucs expect him to play football again this year. And I think that's a much worse update than what the initial thought on Luke Gedeke was, because the initial thought was he had 4 weeks on his IR. That's 4. See, I'm putting up 4 fingers to kind of, symbolize that. That would pin him back for the Detroit Lions game in week 7. And I think that was the assumption, is that, once he's done with this 4-week IR stint, he'll be back. Now it's not looking like that's going to be the case. Now it's looking like He's going to be gone for longer than that. And that's not good because I'll go over some stats. I actually went over one of our writers, Darius Hayes, who's going to do an article on this. But you look at Charlie Heck. If you look at Pro Football Focus stats here, right? He has 22 pressures across 173 pass blocking snaps. That's almost a 13% pressure rate. That's really, really bad. In fact, it's 72nd out of 73 qualifying people on PFF there. If you take a look at their grades, he's the 69th ranked pass blocker of 74 qualifying tackles. He's not playing good football right now. So they need Luke Gedeke back in the worst way in that aspect, because that would also take pressure off whoever's playing right guard. It's Luke Haggard right now. Michael Jordan's coming back, but is he more of an emergency plug-in guy for the first 2 weeks, or do they like him more than Luke Haggard? We'll find out. But that's going to be a big one. And if Luke Gedeke can come out back if Luke Gedeke can come back in a few games, that's great. If it's more like in December or hopefully playoffs, that's really bad.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what a good milestone personally, I think that would be that Rams game in November. If you don't have Luke Gedeke, that's going to be really bad. You've got Jared Verse, who is an absolute freak of nature, one of the best players in the NFL, I think, and Byron Young on either side of that line. It's gonna be tough. So when you play lines like that,
they're also throwing stunts at you. They'll bring fists and do a bunch of twists and stuff. Very, very interesting.
But those type of opponents, like the Rams, not just the Rams, like the Rams, are going to throw a lot at you. And a guy like Charlie Heck, especially in the playoffs or late in the season when you need to win those NFC South games, that might not do it. So that's going to be tough. So I think that's a player that they need back sooner than later. And it looked like that was going to be soon, and now it doesn't look like that.
It's concerning, to say the least. It's hard not to be, right? Because like you're told, oh, he's going on IR, and you're like, okay, well, maybe he'll be back 4 or 5 weeks, at most 6, and go from there and let it be that and move on. And now we're at, we expect him to be back this year. Okay, that's a big jump from 4, 5, 6 games to potentially a majority of the season for your starting right tackle, who it plays at an all-pro level. So really tough. To have him out, missing that many games. I mean, who knows what's going on? I remember with the Ryan Jensen situation, it was hush-hush for like a year. Like nobody knew anything about it for like a year. Hopefully it's not something of that caliber where they're trying to get as many options as possible without calling it and, being that serious of an injury. But we'll see. We'll continue to monitor it. So you guys stay plugged in with us at BucsGameday.com, where we've got a ton of information flowing out. Getting ready for the San Francisco 49ers making their way to Tampa Bay this week. They are down a lot of guys, man. They're down
more than the Bucs, which you think the Bucs fan might go, there's no way. Yes, there is a way.
Outside of the Bucs, the 49ers are one of those teams that you can point to and be like, okay, they're pretty beat up. They're up there. They're up there.
And guess what? They're 4-1.
They're 4-1. I would not have had them at that. I took the under 10.5 wins, so that's not looking too hot for me right now to start the season. So don't follow me when it comes to my gambling takes. So with that being said, still a tough team, still a scrappy team. Brock Purdy not practicing again.
Doesn't seem like it's going to be Purdy. It looks like it's going to be Mac Jones.
Mac Jones, who obviously was dealing with some discomfort in his knee last week in their win. I forget who it was over, but
the Los Angeles Rams, a very big win.
Rams, got that little tweak, was hobbling around a bit, but he's a tough guy. He'll be in there for them. Doesn't look like Jawan Jennings is going to be able to go still. Not fully.
No Ricky Pierce, no Slick Rick,
Ricky Pearsall either. So you're looking at another Demarcus Robinson, Kendrick Bourne game there. If you are the San Francisco 49ers, obviously everything runs through CMC, Christian McCaffrey there out of the backfield. So glad to have a couple shares of him in some dynasty leagues. So it's 30 points every single week. And so barring any unforeseen injury, which, Lord knows that it's very prone to happen to Christian McCaffrey. That's going to be where their offense, flows around. It's going to be all about Christian McCaffrey. Brian Robinson Jr. hasn't made pretty much any impact there. since being traded there from the Washington Commanders. So Kendrick Bourne, yeah, he had a good week last week, but that typically happens when you're getting a lot of new looks. You're trying to go out there and prove yourself, getting more opportunities, things of that nature, and teams not having that much film on you to begin with. So now they do. Now they know how they're going to play them. Todd is going to probably want to be very aggressive in this game, but good matchup nonetheless. Another important NFC matchup. If the Buccaneers get this one, that's a great start to the NFC with a couple of tough games coming up here before you get into the NFC South play at the end of the season.
Yeah, this 49ers team is going to be tough. I have two sort of keys to look at here on both sides of the ball. I think on the offensive side of the ball, being able to click in the red zone again is going to be really important. And I know people go, oh, that's obvious. But you look at the San Francisco 49ers here, red zone scoring percentage on their defense, they're 8th in the league with a 56.25. So they're really good at keeping teams out of the end zone once you get into the red zone, or the red area, as some people call it. You're going to want to be able to punch that in, because if you're not able to get those scores early, I think it's going to be a tough sledding. The Bucs were not able to get in the red zone against the Seahawks in the first 2 tries. I think if you try that again, not going to go well for you. Limiting turnovers and being able to strike in the red zone and take that momentum that they have from the end of the game last week into this game this week. They did pretty well. Speaking of Rachaad White here, D13, it's good to see White and hoping he gets extended. Checking for Tez again in the SF game. Yeah, Rachaad White was a big part of why they were good in the red zone, right? And his versatility there. They're going to have to be able to really punch it in with his skill set, just like they did against Seattle, and they kind of figured that out late. But that's going to be a pretty big problem, especially when it comes to Rachaad White. They're not a huge run stopping team, right? I mean, they're 15th in the league in run stopping, so Rachaad White's got to be able to cook there. So those would be my things to focus on offense. On defense, there's a really big mismatch that I think is going to be a huge factor in this game that I know Kyle Shanahan's going to take advantage of. That will be Christian McCaffrey and SirVocea Dennis. If you take a look here, I've got some statistics from Sumer Sports. You take a look here, the San Francisco 49ers target their running backs more than any other team in the NFL. 33.85% of their pass attempts go to running backs, namely Christian McCaffrey. SirVocea Dennis is on Christian McCaffrey and perhaps Lavonte David as well. Dennis is not been very effective this year in the pass respects.
Week 1.
Yes, and then also Lavonte David's a lot slower, so keeping out Christian McCaffrey might be tough there. You look at the Buccaneers stats against running backs catching the ball this season. They're giving up 0.703 EPA per reception there. They've have a 66.67% success rate when going against the Bucs while passing to running backs, 12.24 yards per reception. It's one of the worst areas of Tampa Bay's defense when you pass the football to a running back. And guess what Kyle Shanahan loves to do is get the ball to Christian McCaffrey. So I think watching that and making sure you have a little bit of help on that matchup is going to be a huge key for the Bucs, because if they let McCaffrey tear him up like that, he's just going to run wild, especially in that passing game and those yak yards, and that's going to be a bad thing. And then you have Mac Jones. Mac Jones is pretty efficient when it comes to moving this ball down the field, but he is a short yard kind of guy, right? He doesn't push the ball down the field. What'd you say?
It's the offense.
Yeah, right. So because it's the offense, like you mentioned, the Shanahan system, he's not very risky. And if you look at, I've got ADOT here on PFF, which is the average depth of target that a quarterback will throw during their time. Of the 38 qualifying quarterbacks here with ADOT, Mac Jones is 35th. He's averaging 7.1 yards depth of target. That's very, very little. So I think if you're the defense, you want to make sure you can limit McCaffrey in the receiving game, and you want to press up and try and make Mac Jones beat you on the deep ball. And I think that would be the way to try and nip the 49ers in the bud. He's not going to be very mobile. He's got a bit of a knee injury there that he's playing through, so you're not going to have to worry as much about contain like you have against more mobile quarterbacks. but being able to get some pressure on him in the pocket and make him throw to the intermediate and deep areas is how Todd Bowles and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to have to win this game.
Yeah. There you have it, folks. I mean, I don't have much more insight than River just dropped on you guys. That's some ball knowledge right there, man.
Thank you.
Always good to have a good ball knowledge guy on the podcast.
That's an honor. That's an honor.
It
I'm
is.
all right.
But yeah, it's good. Those are great matchups. Very well said. And obviously, that defense being led by Fred Warner is a problem. Fred Warner is still Fred Warner.
I mean, when you watch him play, guys, I don't know if you guys have. If you watch him play, you just wonder how this is not the most valuable player in the National Football League who's not a quarterback. It's just his reaction and reading speed is unbelievable. I actually asked Josh Gazard about Robert Saleh's defense, but he had to throw this in there today just because he says that entire defense runs through Fred Warner. He says Fred Warner is the quarterback of that defense. The entire flow of how they operate goes through him at the center, and it should, because he's just an unbelievable player. Hall of Famer, first ballot Hall of Famer probably. Year in and year out, just one of the top 5 best players in the league. Knowing where he is at all times, very important. So being able to see the middle of the field. If you're Baker Mayfield, you don't want to get to a bad turnover because you've lost track of Fred Warner, right? Either him hiding behind the defensive line, in the way that they stack their linebackers behind the defensive tackles, or if through blitzes, you don't want to fumble by not knowing where he is. And I think they know that. So he's a game changer. He's a complete game changer, more so than maybe any other defensive player in the National Football League, besides Dexter Lawrence and Micah Parsons and those type of guys, right?
So, game wreckers, yeah.
That's a tough one, man. That's a tough one.
Tough one, but it's not something. I mean, the Bucs have gone up against pretty solid defenses this year and been in those games, won some of those games. So they have what it takes, despite being down who they're down. They have shown resiliency. They have shown ways to get around, and that's a lot of that credit should go to Josh Gazard. I know you were kind of nitpicky about him early to start the season, wanted to see more. I thought we saw more last week. Those deep field shots were still there. Intermediate game looked good. Getting Tez more involved on the offense was nice to see. And then running the ball there in the red zone and being efficient at it is solid too. Being able to get back into the 30s is nice. Not a super hot start, but a faster start than usual. You think Grizz is settling in here, River, and do you see him settling in here against a Fred Warner and Robert Saleh led defense there in San Francisco?
That's a tough ask, isn't it? Grizz has some experience playing Robert Saleh. He was with the Miami Dolphins when Saleh was the head coach of the New York Jets in the division, so he's seen it a lot. He knows that this scheme is not very complicated. It's got very few actual looks, but it's very effective in the way that they attack the ball and are able to operate in space. So yeah, this is a tough one. I think Grizz has been doing a pretty good job of what he's had. I think injuries have had something to do with that. I would like to see a little bit more unique personnel usage, but again, if you're missing a right tackle and you're missing wide receivers, then you can't really do those things, can you? So with what he's had to work with, I think he's done well. I think the biggest thing is red zone and third downs, and you got to be able to get those going. But with guys like, they're probably going to be without Chris Godwin again on Sunday. It's a big third down guy. So they're probably going to be back to emeka, egbuka. And I believe D13 mentioned this before. Tez Johnson's going to have a really big role in that sort of thing as well. Because
be a Cade game too.
What'd you say?
Look for Cade here too.
Oh yeah, and Cade was invisible for a while because he was helping block, and then against Seattle, boom, had a really, really nice game. If you can kind of utilize him in the passing game, still help him chip a little bit, especially on that right side where they need it. No Nick Bosa helps in that respect. If Nick Bosa was playing, this would be tough, but he's not. So it's gonna be a tough ask. D13 does mention in the comments here he's gonna need me to pick San Francisco so the Bucs can continue to win. Yes, for those at home, I did pick the Jets to beat the Bucs, and I picked the Seahawks to beat the Bucs, and neither of those things happened. So maybe I'll pick San Fran. But actually, believe it or not, I kind of like this matchup more than I like Seattle and Tampa Bay, because I think there's a lot of ways this Bucs offense can exploit this 49ers defense, and I think there is a key to kind of limiting Mac Jones, but Todd Bowles has never defeated Kyle Shanahan as head coach of the Buccaneers. That he really likes that matchup. Shanahan does, so it's gonna be tough, man. It's gonna be a tough one.
Yeah, that was my next question. I was going to lead into what does the defense have to do, to come away with a victory in this one, because it is, despite them being down so many weapons, it's still, Kyle Shanahan led offense. Todd
Yeah,
Bowles
it is.
bring in. I don't know if you have to double Christian McCaffrey, do it. Like if that's what you have to do to go out there and win the game, do it. But force guys like Kendrick Bourne and Demarcus Robinson to go out there and win the game for them.
I mean, yeah, you look at the rushing stats, this 49ers offense is really, really bad at it. 32nd in yards per rush, 28th in rush yards per game. So you don't have to worry about the run game with San Francisco. But the problem with that is if you kind of get a little bit lax on that, Christian McCaffrey still could cook. So I think looking at McCaffrey as a receiving threat is going to be the huge one here, and making sure guys like Servasti, Dennis, and Lavonte David are staying disciplined. They know where he's at all times, and maybe they could use some help in dedicating some guys to some man coverage there with him out of the flat, him, on a Texas route out of the backfield, whatever it is. Watching him is going to be big because they love to throw to McCaffrey, and McCaffrey, when he has the ball in his hands, makes things happen. You mentioned this earlier, Caleb. Bijan Robinson in the past game. In fact, you remember when he scored that massive touchdown on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to start the season? That's going to happen a lot if you don't stay disciplined. And that's going to be a really reliable safety valve for a guy like Mac Jones who doesn't have to stretch the field if he can get to McCaffrey, and he knows that linebacker matchup is weak. So you got to really stay on your P's and Q's, I think is a term that they use. But that's going to be pretty important. And like I mentioned earlier, you can make Mac Jones try and have to get over the top a little bit, he might be less effective in that area. So, but Shanahan's so good. He's the matchup master, right? If Shanahan wants McCaffrey on Servasti Dennis, he will make it happen. He will will it happen. So
he will force it.
Yes, if he wants certain corners, if Zion McCollum's out, right? If Benjamin Morrison's out, if he wants Kendrick Bourne on Jacob Parrish on the outside, he's going to make it happen. So discipline is going to be really important here, guys. Making sure you're not getting too many penalties to kill yourself, but really just trying to understand the type of matchups that Shanahan wants ahead of time and reacting to that sort of thing will be important. Yeah.
Like you said, dot your I's and cross your T's.
As they say.
P's and Q's. We got the alphabet going on today. It's working.
Yeah,
well.
We got to do all the football cliches just in a row. Kind of. We'll hit it eventually. They got to execute. They got to stay on their P's and Q's, right? Yeah, they just got to take what the defense gives them.
And as long as we're not talking about special teams, because Riley Dixon got a punt at the 1 yard line, like we're good.
Yeah, that's good. Return game for the special teams. I guess I should say return defense. Where the Gunners are trying to stop the other team from returning, was bad. I think Seattle started the 50 like 2 times. So if you do that, Mac Jones being the sort of death by 1,000 cuts quarterback he has been, that cuts the field in half for him to do that. That's going to kill you. So you're going to need to be a good special teams team, which you always do, but especially with a team like this that's going to try and run long, extended drives that are going to be kind of piecemeal, right? Those short / intermediate sort of passing game stuff, because they're not really running the ball well. And if you cut their field in half by letting them return all the way down to the 50, man, you're doing so much of the work for them, aren't you? So it's going to be a big key.
Yeah. Again, Bucs 420, 425?
425?
425, 425, 405, and like, which one is it?
It's 425. Yeah,
they never get it right on the dot, but 425 here at Raymond James Stadium on Sunday evening. There, nice little game. River and myself, as long as our founder Logan will be up there at covering the game. We should have an instant reaction for you guys after that one. Unfortunately, we missed one last week, but we'll be back on top of it for you guys. If you guys are watching anywhere other than YouTube, we hope that you do head over to YouTube, type in Here the Cannons, or type in BucsGameday there at the top of the search bar. You'll be brought to our page. Go ahead and subscribe, like, and comment, and let us know how well we are doing or how much you disagree with our takes that we think are pretty decent, but you guys could find not so decent. We truly appreciate all of you watching out there. Big game coming up. Another NFC win on a notch under your belt would be huge. With a couple of tough matchups coming up before your bye week. Hopefully, some of these guys that are hurt are coming back here sooner rather than later. We'll continue to monitor the Luke Gadecki situation and what's going on there.
However that's going, yeah.
If we ever get a clear answer, we will be the first to let you know at BucsGameday.com. So stay tuned in with us over there. We truly do appreciate all the views and everything else. River, go ahead and sign us off, big dog.
Fire the cannons.